I'm Leilani Farha, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Housing and the Global Director of The Shift. I'm here with Hasina Manik, who is my Director of Communications for The Shift, and she's going to help me answer the Ask Me Anything questions. Hasina, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, Leilani, and hello to the internet. Before we start, I just wanted to actually thank everyone who submitted questions. We got so many interesting and thoughtful questions from all over the world. Of course, we can't answer all of them, so we'll just get started with the first one. Here goes. Leilani, what inspired you to become the Special Rapporteur, and what have you learned about yourself or the role itself in the past 6 years?
Oh dear. Okay. What inspired me to apply for the role of Special Rapporteur? Well, I mean, I knew it would be an exceptional opportunity to make change. And uh, I've always felt a little more comfortable on the international stage for a variety of reasons, maybe from my own, because of my own makeup. But I never really felt like Canadian. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just a phenomenal opportunity to have the ear of governments, but to work closely with people on the ground and NGOs. I mean, that's pretty cool, as well as like courts and national human rights institutions. So that's, I think, what motivated me. Uh, what have I learned about myself? Was that the second part?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Uh, well, I have to be honest, actually, to say that so you want this thing and you apply and you get it. And then I was a bit like deer in headlights. Oh my God, I got this thing. And it took me probably 18 months before I felt quite comfortable in the role.
Mhm.
And then it took me even still some more time to really believe in my work, in my ability to make change. You know, when you're on that global stage, you really feel like so small, even though you've got a ton of people around you working with you. I have an amazing team and have built an amazing team, but you have to really believe in yourself, and that took some time. So I think what I learned was that I can trust my judgment, and I've learned that I can make a difference if I work collaboratively with a lot of people.
Amazing. That seems really positive. Is there anything interesting that you want to share that you've learned about the role itself of rapporteurs and special procedures with the UN?
I think they are a phenomenal uh, mechanism.
Hmm.
And, you know, before I was a rapporteur, I was just an NGO person and running a couple of NGOs in my lifetime. And I used the special procedures mechanism. And I always thought it was cool. And I admit that now that I'm in it, I realize, oh my God, it's actually super cool. And I think probably one of the most effective mechanisms available through the UN human rights system. And that's not just because I was a rapporteur. There's
Are you
amazing
sure?
rapporteurs out there. Yeah.
I might be biased.
Yeah, I might be biased, but I really do think, I mean, because we have this incredible ability to go to the ground, meet people, understand their experiences, and then take those to government officials directly and have those doors open for us. Honestly, I think it has tremendous capacity. I actually think so much more could be done with the mechanism, but of course it's under resourced. Like so much of the human rights work at the UN, it's under resourced. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So, with that said about the UN system and the role of the rapporteur, multiple people who submitted questions asked what you're going to be doing next. There's rumor that you have a fellowship. Obviously, we know about your role with the shift. What's next?
Yeah, so I am pretty excited about the future. I didn't know how I would feel ending the rapporteurship. A lot of people send me, you know, when they find out I'm leaving, they send me like, you know, an emoji with a tear. But I don't feel that way at all. I feel super excited to be able to actually assume the role of global director of the shift in a fulsome way, which you know, I've been the global director for a little bit of time now, but to really assume that role is cool. And you know, the shift, we have a partnership with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as United Cities and Local Governments, which is, for those of you out there who don't know, is a international network of local governments and representatives from local governments. So it's a really cool partnership and a really good platform to continue to try to make change. So I'm going to move forward with the shift in my team with Hasina, and there's many others, Julieta, some of some of you out there will know, and Caitlin, and a fellow in London named Sam. So I'm super excited about that. I do have a fellowship with the Open Society, and it's really exciting, and it really dovetails with the shift. I'm going to spend a year in starting in June, really, you know, hunkering down, focusing on the financialization of housing and trying to develop a set of human rights, or maybe I'll call it a human rights guidance on how governments can deal with these big institutional financial actors that have really changed the housing landscape. So that's a super exciting project. Really tough in the time of COVID, really tough, because that involved a lot of traveling around and meeting with other experts, and, hosting meetings and roundtables. So now I have to do everything through Zoom, at least for the next little while. But that's what the future holds.
Mm-hmm. That actually ties in well with our next question, which is a bit of a lighter one, but people want to know, I think a lot of people are thinking about this particular question, but how do you maintain your cool hairstyle while you're experiencing all these shutdowns?
Oh, during the COVID time. Well,
Yeah.
I will admit to the world that I've been pretty cool during this pandemic. I've been fine without traveling. Actually, I've really been enjoying being at home, spending time with my kids. I feel like I've been given a gift of time, which is cool.
Mhm.
The one anxiety I've had has been about my hair, and I'm not kidding. But so far, because I have the world's best stylist, my hair's looking pretty okay
Yeah.
as we move in. And I haven't had my hair cut in a super long time. So I'm really hoping that, like in Switzerland, when they started lifting the lockdown,
Hmm.
one of the first things they lifted in Switzerland, I read this, is hairdressers.
I
And I'm
bet people were desperate.
really hoping that's true in the province of Ontario where I live. So
Well,
yeah,
here's hoping
hair
someone
product.
is listening.
Hair product is key. Hair product.
Number one takeaway from this
Yeah,
Ask Me
that's what I've
Anything.
learned. 6 years as rapporteur. Hair product.
We'll put that in the tweet. Okay, so next question, a little bit more serious now again.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, what has your experience been as a racialized woman in this position as the international expert on the right to housing?
Wow. And that's not a question I get asked. I don't know about racialized. I think racialized is good internationally. One, everywhere I go, people can pronounce my name. It's so lovely. I really like that, because I've had some difficulties in North America with this name, Leilani.
I
Um,
can relate.
but as a woman, and I'm an exceptionally casual rapporteur, I think I have a casualness about me generally, and I brought that to the rapporteurship, and that has its strengths. But
Hmm.
I also think sometimes I might not have been treated with the gravitas that older man might have been treated with or given.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think sometimes I'm perceived as girlish, even though
Mm.
I have 25 years of experience working in the area of housing and human rights. Um, so I think that's been a sometimes I felt that. I felt it in meetings where there's kind of like like a kind of, how serious should we take her? On missions, I noticed sometimes government officials were a little bit surprised by my end of mission statements and recommendations
Mm.
that tended to be pretty hard hitting. I think because they're like, oh, we're going to invite in this nice girl, or
Yeah.
a motherhood issue, housing, and then
Ah.
oh darn it, she's super serious about human rights. So I have felt that. I think even within the UN system a little bit.
Mhm.
um, I wonder if all rapporteurs are treated equally, and if the women rapporteurs are treated at all differently. Sometimes I had that feeling. What do I know?
I mean, I think you know a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I got to ask you the question, because I never thought about this dimension of the right to housing as being possibly dismissed as being less urgent or less important as it relates to motherhood or home life
Yeah,
or these kinds of things. So that's an interesting
exactly
point.
right.
Yeah. Okay, well, the next question is a little bit more back into the work so we can
Yep.
remind everyone how much you do know. So we have this question from the UK, from folks in Edinburgh. What role do grassroots groups have in holding to account governments, councils, and companies responsible in order to help protect the right to housing and support the role of the special rapporteur?
Mm. What a great question. And yes, grassroots movements, people on the ground, people experiencing housing disadvantage, inequality, homelessness, will be the key to any change, of course. When
Mhm,
you look around the world and see where there has been change, it's really always come from the ground up.
mhm,
So, movements taking to the streets, movements going to court and litigating, movements going to human rights institutions, movements going to legislatures to, demand policy change, legislative change.
mhm,
That's how we make change. Um, I, as rapporteur, am completely beholden to all of those people, and all of the information that I go on and everything I act on comes from the ground. Hugely, hugely important. And it is tiring work and very courageous work. People are often really struggling in their own personal circumstances and still advocating on their own behalf and for their communities. It's just amazing. So, yeah, really essential.
So the next question is about financialization. Someone wants to know, in how we formulate our response or how we respond to the financialization, is it more pressing to look at the ways that financialization manifests across different regions and
Mhm.
compare and look at the role of each state in those regions? Or should we look at it from, I guess, a more overall perspective and look at the strategies that the private equity firms have, like across the board, and then think of also a community-based response, like
Mm.
across the board, like international mobilization?
I see. I see. Okay. Um, yeah. So, first of all, for those of you out there who don't totally know what financialization is, it's the treatment of housing as a commodity rather than a home and a place to grow families and contribute to community. So, where housing is used to park, grow, and leverage capital. Happening everywhere. Very concerned that it's happening or about to happen in this COVID era, where there's going to be a lot of available assets, in my opinion, and very few with a lot of money left. Anyway, big institutional actors are involved in financialization, big private equity firms and pension funds. So I think, I was involved in the documentary film Push.
Mhm,
And the idea there was to just get people to understand financialization is a global phenomenon and it requires a global response. So
mhm,
I still think that that's super important. And one of the beauties of the film, or the thing that we learned through the film, is that it's really helping people feel less alone. Not just people at the end of the film coming up to Frederick, the director, and I saying, "Oh, I feel less alone. I realize now that it's not about me. It's about these big financial actors. I'm not the loser here. It's that they're doing this to me." But
yeah,
also recognizing that you know this person in New York is experiencing the same thing that that person in Seoul, South Korea was experiencing, and the same as is being experienced in, um, wherever Chile,
mhm,
so Santiago, Chile. So getting people to understand that this is global and that that there are no borders around this.
mhm,
At the same time, I think local action is super important, and understanding how it's manifesting in your different location is super important. If you look at the folks in Berlin who have taken to the streets and managed before the pandemic to get this incredible rent freeze in place, where rents are freeze now for 5 to 7 years. I mean, what they did was they took a look around, they saw what was happening to their particular city and the particular financial actors and came up with a response. And that's super important too.
mhm.
Um, I do hope that the film Push can work in both ways, can galvanize local communities to do something local, but can get us to all understand that we're in this big struggle together and it's a global struggle.
Mhm. I think that that would be a super, I think, strong and encouraging note to end
Yeah.
on. But I do have
Yeah.
one more question for you. And I think this
Okay.
is probably a good time to remind everyone watching this video that you, Leilani, had promised a shout out to the most pleasant question. I'll let you decide which was the most enjoyable to answer, but not until
Right.
you hear the next one. Someone wants to know, does your dog Bean come with you on missions?
Best question ever. I wish my little Beanie could come with me on mission. No, Bean, not only does Bean not come on mission, but truth be told, Bean doesn't even stay at home when I leave. We
Really?
send him to doggy camp when I leave so
Wow.
that the family gets a break and they don't have to deal with both my absence and his needs, which are many.
Yeah.
So he goes on his own little vacation when I go on mission. Mm.
Whoa. I,
So a shout out. Okay, so I have to admit the two best questions: Bean and my hair. What can I say? So
definitely.
a shout out to whoever asked those two questions. Thanks so much.
All right. I think we can leave it there. Thanks for answering all the questions, Leilani.
Thanks, Hasina.
Okay. Take care.